Hey everybody, it's Evan Grant from the Dallas Morning News and SportsDayDFW.com here in Surprise. This is the press box here at Surprise Stadium. I am shooting on location today. I was going to shoot out at the field, but I don't have a backlight. Because of it, you would have seen really a very dark soul, and I know that I've been accused of that, but I'd prefer for you to see me in a much more pleasant light. Anyway, this week is pitching week. It's all about pitching. I think everything's really got to be compressed here at spring training because of the short amount of time that the Rangers have to work on things and because of the questions they've got to answer. A couple of questions became easier to answer, however, on Tuesday. Thank you, Major League Baseball, when they announced that they would actually go with a 28-man roster to start the season, which will allow the Rangers to carry up to 15 pitchers. And that's going to be a big relief for them because there are guys that they're just not going to be able to get answers about in spring training, and the evaluation process has got to carry over into the season. But those are all going to be relievers. Those two extra guys will be relievers, might be multi-inning relievers, might give the Rangers an opportunity to simply just look at a couple of young guys a little bit longer. What I wanted to focus on this morning as I tape this is the number 5 starter spot. And listen, I've been covering this team for 26 years, and I don't think we've gone to camp once when there hasn't been a big question about the number 5 starter. And I still haven't learned my lesson because usually the number 5 starter at the beginning of the year is not still in the rotation come the end of the year. There's a reason why they go into the battle for the number 5 spot as a candidate. It's the back of the rotation. There's a lot of uncertainty. It's either going to be a young guy who has something to prove or a guy with some degree of track record who has usually, kind of been on the up and down, been inconsistent. So what I think I know about the Rangers situation is I think there are 6 guys in contention for the number 5 spot to start the year. I think the first 4 spots in the rotation are pretty much guaranteed. It'll be in some fashion John Gray, Martin Perez, Dane Dunning, Taylor Hearn. Taylor made his first start of spring on Monday in Cleveland, and in a game that finished 25-12, he actually pitched 2 scoreless innings, so he was good on a day when nobody really was. Anyway, so the 6 guys who were in contention for this spot, I think, are Spencer Howard, who was acquired last year, Colby Allard, who was acquired in 2019, A.J. Alexei, who was acquired in the Yu Darvish trade, Glenn Otto, who was acquired in the Joey Gallo trade, Brock Burke, who was acquired in a 3-way trade with Tampa and Oakland, and Kohei Arihara, who was signed out of Japan last year. I don't think any of the Rangers' homegrown prospects are really going to factor in this going into the year. But I think if I've grouped this right, I think there are 3 groupings of these 6 guys. And I think the Rangers would like it if Spencer Howard won that job. He's the most recent acquisition that was close to the big leagues. He was a high prospect, young. The Rangers feel like there's some capability for this guy to be a middle of the rotation starter. He wasn't good at all last year when he came over from Philadelphia. I think he would acknowledge, and he has to me, that he was in a bad mental state. He had been up and down and in and out of the rotation. There had been a lot of changes and things. And, towards the end of the season when he was on the mound for the Rangers, he said that everything that was going through his head was all about mechanics and thinking and never about just freeing himself up to pitch. And that's a terrible, terrible way to try and pitch. It's pretty much a recipe for disaster. During the offseason, he started meditating again, something he had done a while ago. Got away from the game for a little bit, which was important, I think, to kind of just put last season behind him and try to focus on moving on. But it's still going to be a matter of whether or not he looks free and in command of his stuff. And he's going to pitch on Thursday for the Rangers here. What I think is interesting about this is I think it only gives him 3 starts before the regular season, and I'm not sure if that's going to be enough for the Rangers to actually make a decision. I think most guys are going to get 4 starts who would be in this mix, or who would get 4 looks, who will be in this mix. And that's the one question I've got about Spencer's candidacy is, will he be built up and have enough outings to actually win the job? The second guy is Colby Allard, who pitched really well yesterday as a starter. Start yesterday being Tuesday against Arizona. Pitched 2 very effective innings, but as I said, kind of in our Rangers notebook, I think, there's 2 things there. He started, and he pitched 2 effective innings. And what the Rangers have to figure out is what's going to be more valuable to them. A guy who can start once every 5th day and maybe give you 5 innings, which I think is what the Rangers would hope for from Colby in that situation, occasionally 6, or a guy who could give you multiple innings twice through every rotation. That's going to be an important role for this team particularly early on in the year when starters are limited on the number of pitches they can throw. So Colby has had some success as a longer reliever. I think the Rangers view him long term, if he's in their championship window, as a longer reliever. And he's got a little bit more experience doing that than Spencer Howard does. So Allard's a viable candidate, but I think the Rangers have to determine which role they feel like he serves more value to the team in. I think he's going to make the team. Just a question of whether or not it's as a starter or as a long reliever. Then you get to the group of 3 young guys and Arihara, and I really think that the plan for all of these guys would be for them to go to AAA Round Rock, be part of the rotation there, and serve as depth options. Can you believe I just scratched my shoulder in the middle of this video? This is why I am terrible at this. But all of those guys would go to Round Rock, do their work down there, and be viable options. Of course, the stars are all going to be at Frisco. I don't know if they'll all open the season at Frisco, but at some point in time, I expect you will see Cole Winn, who may start at Frisco, may start at Round Rock. You'll see Jack Leiter, who may start at Frisco or start at Class A Hickory. Owen White, same situation. Ricky Vanasco, same situation. That is the next wave of Rangers pitching talent. I think you might even be able to throw Zach Kent in that mix. And it's a good group. I mean, they are legitimate arms. All of them have at least one, I would say, really plus pitch. And that's something you haven't been able to say about Rangers pitching prospects in a long, long time. So that's both optimistic and exciting, but at the same time, the Rangers want to make sure they get these guys to the big leagues at a time when they can be of the most significant use to this team in a starter's role, competing for a championship. And to rush them right now, I think would just be silly. It just doesn't make sense. They've all got something to work on, and I think it's important for the Rangers to be able to just kind of, I don't want to say tamp down, but just make sure that the process works in a more natural and organic way rather than trying to force anybody into the big leagues quicker than they need to be. All right, I think I've explained that in way too many words. Don't have a lot more to offer you today. I will say that last night, being Tuesday night, I managed to offend Angels Twitter, apparently, by offering my opinion that I thought the new rule that allowed designated hitters who are pitchers to remain in the game as designated hitters after they've been lifted from the pitching mound create something of an unfair advantage for the Angels, because the Angels are the only team that have a guy in that situation. I wouldn't say that this is something I will lose sleep over. I don't think it's something anybody should lose sleep over. I just feel like while the game should promote players like Shohei Ohtani all it can, I also don't think that there should be rules created specifically for those players. There are some other guys. Brendan McKay in Tampa Bay is one who might also be two-way players. But listen, in the history of the game, there have been two outstanding two-way players, Babe Ruth and Shohei Ohtani. So I'd like to see a little bit more of a sample before Major League Baseball went to that route. But hey, if it gets Ohtani 20 more at-bats, 25 more at-bats this year, may add to some really historic numbers. And people come to the game to see Shohei Ohtani. They're not going to come to the game to see somebody who is pinch hitting in that role for him. So I get that part. Let's see if there's anything else here I want to drop on you from surprise. No, my lips are parched, chapped. It's that time of spring. Been here almost 2.5 weeks, and you feel like you're covered in a sheen of dust, as I like to describe it. But we're 10 days away from leaving camp and heading into the regular season. Rangers still have a lot of decisions to make, and I really think all of them are on the pitching side, and that's what the next 10 days are all going to be about, is sorting out this pitching stuff. We'll get into the relief stuff when that picture becomes maybe a little bit more clear, hopefully in the next week or so. But I think that with the addition of the 2 extra relievers and the fact that most of these guys have either not pitched or have 1 inning to their name, it's going to be hard to kind of work through the bullpen situation right now. There are multiple jobs open. The Rangers are going to need some guys who can pitch more than 1 inning. And so it's, and I think also, there I go again, man, the dust with the scratchiness and the itchiness. Maybe we should call this the Itchy and Scratchy Show. There are multiple jobs open, and I think a lot of it's also going to depend on how the roster is constructed. Is the guy have options left? If he does, probably goes to the minor leagues. Is the guy on a minor league contract? Will it cost you somebody that has any kind of future to put him on the 40-man roster? If it does, that guy may lose out. So I think this is going to be a question of keeping the maximum number of arms to start the year in the system, and then let the regular season kind of sort things out, because you just can't get adequate looks at these guys in this short amount of time. And I think that's the situation that everybody will deal with. And I do commend Major League Baseball for going to 28-man rosters for April. I think it was necessary. I think hopefully it will prevent some injuries, and I think it's a good idea for the game. And quite frankly, I'd love to see it if Major League Baseball went to 28-man rosters in April every year. Maybe shorten spring training 4 weeks every year, 28-man rosters in April, and then designate 26 active players in September. No reason for anybody to play with a different size roster than anybody else did in September. I know they've now limited the roster size to 28 in September, but let's just play with the same set of rules in September that we did in the rest of the season, or the majority of the season, and give guys looks at the beginning of the year rather than the end, when they can actually hopefully help some guys avoid injury. All right, enough about that. Hopefully we'll figure out the lighting situation so that if I give you another report, you don't have to look at my mug the whole time. But in the meantime, listen, I enjoy doing these things as bad as I am at it. I don't know why I'm constantly saluting, but we'll figure some better sign-off. Give me your feedback. Give me anything you want. You reach me at egrant@dallasnews.com or on Twitter at Evan_P_Grant, and give me your reviews. I can take it. They can be like Yelp. Tell me you're never coming back here again, and I'll work hard to, I'll offer you a free video. Try and get you to come back. All right, everybody. See you next week.